We have another in the annals of stupid zoning tricks, and this is another subject that's come up recently. The bordertarians are really getting behind zoning. I just recently over on X, and just one of those just discussions that goes on and on forever and doesn't get anywhere. The bordertarians, particularly the New Hampshire libertarians, they're big on borders. Turns out they're big on zoning. You know, it's all the same thing we've heard. Oh, well, without zoning, they put a pig farm right next to your... You don't want to put a pig farm right next to your house, do you? They could put it in a racetrack, and then they make a lot of noise. You know, or they could put in a cement factory right next to a playground. Do you want that? Do you want that? Why, if we didn't have zoning, this would be Somalia. No straw man here. This is exactly what they're saying. Yeah. We don't want the pig farms. We don't want the cement factories. We don't want it to be Somalia, so we have to have zoning. And the property owner saying, but I just want to build a shed. That's the reality of it. Because what have we covered in the past? I think my favorite has got to be that guy in East Lansing, Michigan. This went on for years. His daughter was turning 16 and was going to be driving, and she needed a car. And so he needed some extra driveway space for it. So he wanted a driveway. He wanted to take a part of his own property and put in not a pig farm, not a cement factory, not a racetrack, but a driveway. He wanted to put in a flat thing. And it was this huge controversy because he wanted to take a part of his own property and make it flat. And this went on for years, and he had to go get a permit. He got the permit, got the concrete, started pouring it in. City stopped, was like, oh, whoa, wait a minute, you can't do that. It's like, what? I have a permit. Yeah, well, we messed up when we gave you the permit and we shouldn't have given it to you. So then he had to pay for a load of concrete that he couldn't use. Then that happened again, and it was like, and he just ended up suing the city, and they ended up settling. But man, that's the crazy stuff that happens with zoning. Kansas City tried to use zoning to make it illegal to have a roommate. I mean, most people know that when you're starting out, a roommate's great. You know, you can get a 2-bedroom apartment, split expenses. It's great. I had roommates. I mean, yeah, there were bad things about having roommates. But splitting the bills is nice. I had 2 roommates. We were splitting it 3 ways. I have a video that I think everyone should watch, especially since now they're talking about affordable housing as well. I think it was Cori Bush who tweeted on X about, oh, we need affordable housing at the federal level. There's going to be a federal bill for this. I have a video, Zoning Unaffordable Housing, Progressive Eugenics. Yes, this is another eugenics policy of the left. Like so many others we've seen. So, this story from Christian Britchgy. I don't even know about that. I need a couple of extra vowels in that last name, or some fewer consonants. I don't know. Britchgy. I don't know. Britchgy, I guess. Christian Britchgy. But this is another case where zoning is working against the Good Samaritan, which we've seen. We've seen it was in Phoenix. A pastor was jailed, fined, and put in jail for like 4 months, I think, for having a Bible study. He had people over to his house for a Bible study. Yeah. And so this is another case. We've covered several of these too, where, oh my God, you're feeding the homeless. We have to stop you from doing that. That's the thing about these Democrat cities, man. They don't want you feeding the homeless because that makes them more visible. They want the homeless put away where they can't be seen. That's why they designed those crazy park benches, you know, and those little spiky things under bridges and stuff like that to keep the homeless people away from there. They haven't solved the problem of homelessness. They just want to put it where it can't be seen. And we've seen that directly and unmistakably cases where, oh, you can't serve them outside, you have to serve them inside. Yeah, put them in where no one can see them. Instead of, outside in your parking lot, where everyone's going to see the homeless. Because they know the homeless people are a failure of their policies. But can't change their policies, I guess. So get those homeless people away. Yeah, so here we are. Arizona fines church for feeding the hungry. Yeah, we've definitely covered this stuff before. A church in the border town of San Luis, Arizona, is suing the city government after its pastor was fined for distributing food on church property. He wasn't trespassing anywhere. He wasn't trying to do it on public grounds. It was on the church's property. A church feeding the homeless at the church. Oh no, you can't do that. The Gethsemane Baptist Church argues in a new federal lawsuit that those fines are part of a campaign of harassment and intimidation officials are waging against the church's legal, long-standing food ministry. And Jeremy Dice, an attorney with the First Liberty Institute, says, this has been a vital ministry helping people, ranging from people crossing the border. Oh no, that border again. It's a border. They're crossing an imaginary line. It's a crisis. It's an invasion. It's an insurrection. To people as far away as Tucson and food pantries around the area that rely on this church to feed people. The church and its pastor have been distributing food, clothing, and other essential items to the poor for over 2 decades from its property a few blocks from the U.S.-Mexico border. Since a 2012 zoning code update, the church's operation of a food ministry, which included receiving, storing, and distributing food and hot meals in a residential area, was considered a legal, non-conforming use by the city. Legal, non-conforming. Yeah. You only get shit like this with zoning laws. Oh my God. If this isn't evidence enough, oh my God. If you have to have that phrase, then your law is not good, so. Alright, then in 2022, they elected San Luis Mayor Neves Riedel. Following her election, the mayor told the church they could no longer store food at a city-owned warehouse, nor use the public park across the street from the church to distribute food per the lawsuit. The church also received letters saying that it couldn't accept semi-truck deliveries on its property, and that its storage and distribution of food on site changed the character of its food ministry. Oh, zoning people love that word, character. Well, this town has a character, and you're going against the character. We have to stop you from going against the character. We have to make sure you conform to the character. Oh, yeah. Change the character of its food ministry from a legal, non-conforming use to an illegal zoning violation. Because it had things delivered by truck. To appease the city, man, you cannot appease these people. These people are evil narcissists. They are sociopaths. You try to appease them, you're only going to make things worse for yourself. We've seen that over and over again. The church's pastor agreed to minimize the storage of food at the church and have semi-food truck deliveries brought to a separate property where they then be transferred to a smaller trailer and brought to the church. Nevertheless, the city continued to assert that the church's food ministry was a zoning code violation. Castro was twice cited by officials, he received a ticket for handing out food to a crowd of 10 people on the church property. 10 people give him food. Oh, I get a ticket. Illegal food giving. Only with zoning, man. Only with zoning. He was ticketed when a semi-truck driver mistakenly arrived at the church with a food delivery. The church's lawsuit claims that the driver was only there for a few minutes before Castro directed him to take the delivery to the offsite location. It was like, okay, sorry, you're in the wrong place. Here's what you have to do. You have to go around there, then you have to turn right and go down, just go through there and drop it off there. Yep, there you go. The next day, a city code enforcer came to the church and ticketed Castro for the incident. For a semi-truck coming there by mistake, and he gave them directions. Oh, but we can't have pig farms next to residential areas. Oh my God. Its lawsuit notes that a third zoning violation would technically be a misdemeanor that would expose Castro to potential jail time. You're talking about throwing people in jail. That's what happens. You resist them enough, and they throw you in a rape cage. No matter how right you think you are, no matter how justified you think your narcissistic, sociopathic policy is, no matter how you dress it up in nice flowery things, no matter how much you fearmonger about all the stuff that would happen if your policy wasn't passed, this is what backs it up. It's backed up by force. It's backed up by slavery. It's backed up by incarceration. It's backed up by guns. Always. 100% of the time. They tried to disguise it. Well, I gave you 3 chances. But that's always the end result. Always. The first 2 violations already netted the church $4,000 in fines. The church's lawsuit accuses San Luis, Riedel, and several other individual city officials of violating the church's First Amendment right to free exercise and the Federal Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, which limits the kinds of zoning laws that localities can enforce against religious organizations. Remember, we got freedom of religion. And you cannot prohibit the free exercise thereof. They love doing these things to churches, man. One time in Charlotte, near where I live, they fined a church for trimming their trees. They trimmed the trees on their own, like you have to do to maintain healthy trees. You just do that every spring. You go have the guy go out and trim the trees. Trims off the right branches to make the tree healthier. And to make sure it doesn't just grow, crazy out of control. Yep. They fined him. Oh, how dare you trim your trees? And Dice says, the city has a specific target on the back of Pastor Castro, trying to intimidate him into submission for engaging in otherwise protected activity. That's the kind of behavior the First Amendment and federal law stand against. Whereas zoning, let's not forget, came out of the eugenics movement. Those wonderful progressives being racist eugenicists, drawing the zoning lines. Look up redlining. That's what it was. Officially, redlining has been stopped, but it hasn't changed. Zoning is used as a tool of oppression for people based on race, based on religion, based on whatever the hell they feel like. And it's used against poor people, stopping poor people from running businesses from their homes, used against churches, used against other charities trying to feed the homeless and do other community activities. Because all of that points out the incredible failure of the city's economic policies. Oh, there was that kid. his parents were both disabled and couldn't work. And they were having issues and they were going to lose their home. So he set up a hot dog stand, got permission from this business to put a hot dog stand in the parking lot, started selling hot dogs. And the city said, "Oh no, you can't do that because you compete with our wonderful restaurants downtown." Shut him down. The family became homeless. The father was not even allowed in the homeless shelter because he was a chronic pain patient and he wasn't allowed in with his narcotics, his painkillers, the medicine he needed to function. They drove that family into homelessness, put a father out on the streets with chronic pain for no other reason than to protect the profits of their restaurant cronies. That's what this always is. Zoning is not about stopping the hog farms being made in a residential area because no one's going to put a hog farm in a residential area. The whole thing is stupid. I mean, consider just the economics of it. How much you going to pay for that land in a residential area? Hog farms don't make that much money on margin. You know, they got to make it by the scale, by keep doing it. But even then, they're just kind of barely, the markup isn't that great. So why on earth would they pay all that extra to get land in a residential area, as opposed to getting land out in the middle of nowhere? That would be cheaper and work just as well. None of this happened. So many places in this country without zoning. Half the counties in my home state here in North Carolina do not have zoning. You know how many times we have these problems? You keep talking about zero, none. It doesn't happen. What does happen? This story happens over and over and over again. There is no justification for this psychotic and racist policy. This policy of eugenics and division and hate and control. It's centralized control. That's exactly what it is. It's communism. Centralized planning, centralized control. We got to control how things grow. That's central planning. What the hell are libertarians doing supporting central planning? Just please, please, please learn the lesson. Because I don't want to have to keep making videos like this when this kind of crap keeps happening. And when people who are supposed to be libertarians, people who are supposed to be in the Free State Project, we're making a free state, are advocating shit like this. No. Stop. Please. Just stop. Thank you so very much for watching. Comments for the comment god, shares for the share throne. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell. And as always, go to donate.bogosity.tv for all sorts of ways to support. PayPal, Venmo, cryptocurrency. I'll take cryptocurrency. I got several cryptos. Pretty much any crypto, I think, is I've got a Changelly link there, and other ways you can support with all sorts of cryptos. Private cryptos like Monero, fast cryptos like Dash, all sorts of ways. You know, just give me a few pennies. Every little bit helps. Although with the inflation, I am having to go up on the regular supporter tiers at Patreon and Subscribestar. So you might want to get in now before the tiers go up, because next month each tier is going up by $2. You can go ahead, get in now, become a regular supporter, get these videos early and ad-free, and you'll be able to continue that at least for a certain time at the lower tier rate while the other tiers go up for new supporters coming in, and we'll see how long it works after that. I don't have a definitive plan for that, but we'll just see how it goes. Thank you so very much for watching. Until next time, stay strong and be free.